The most important thing is to get alignment across the organization about the things that matter most, right? Now, we know that it's, we like to say AI is not going to replace lawyers, but lawyers who are really good at AI are going to kick the crap out of lawyers who aren't. That's just a fact. And so for large law firms who may be older and successful, don't let your success be an impediment to adopting new ways of thinking and new technology. And my suggestion with, again, AI would be, first of all, you're already using this in many ways. And so start to think about, okay, if I could wave a magic wand and improve three things, I can improve intake, the way we respond to email, and planning, whatever that is. Start there, but make sure everybody in the organization is on board with what you're trying to do. Paint a vision, and then who, what, where, when, most importantly, why. If you can explain to your people, this is who, this is what, this is where, this is when we're going to do it, and this is why we're doing it. Anybody have any questions? And then get buy-in. And it'll be transformational across the organization if you follow that. And don't try to jam stuff down people's throat, right? Just say, we're not just going to do this to do it. And don't buy stuff that you're not going to use because it only creates more problems.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time this podcast finds you. Welcome to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Great guest today. You guys know the rules. There is no ads on this podcast except one mention I make at the start, which is if you like the show, listen to the end if it's your first time. And if Tim and I share some great information, please share it with someone who you think could benefit from this podcast. And like it, subscribe to it, share it, etc. So without further ado, Tim Sawyer from Faster Outcomes, welcome to the 10 Golden Rules podcast.
Really appreciate being here today, Jay. I am psyched to have this conversation and super psyched, by the way, to have met you at the TGR conference, which was my absolute favorite conference of the year so far, and appreciate it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're new friends. Tim was actually one of the sponsors at TGR Live, which is 10 Golden Rules Growth Strategies for Law Firms event, which we just held in Delray Beach. And how were we introduced? Like, how did you guys find out about the show?
My marketing director found you on Google. We reached out, looked at the reviews. Everything looked amazing. And it was our first time going, so you never know what to expect. But from the people that were your team, the way they greeted us, the way they helped us get set up, and I will say one of the coolest things that you guys did that I almost didn't do, and I'm so glad I did, was speed networking. So I had never seen that, where you line up 50 chairs. For those who don't know, you line up 50 chairs and a bunch of people sit this way, a bunch of people sit this way, and you get 90 seconds to do your thing, and then you move to the next one. Any vendor who goes to a show knows the hardest thing is to meet people, to actually meet a lawyer who wants to talk and engage. And I was just so grateful because you forced us to get together. Right now, the vendors got to go sit there and power through the uncomfort and discomfort and all that. But I walked away with 3 cards from that and super psyched. And then the other thing that you guys did that I was super grateful for, and I walked into it by accident, was this lunch power hour. I'd never seen that either. So I got my lunch. This is so funny. I got my lunch, sat down at a table. There was nobody else. And of course, I'm a vendor. So I'm thinking, hopefully somebody sits there. But then all of a sudden, 6 lawyers sat around me. And this woman comes up and she says, okay, I'm going to be your moderator for lunch, which I had no clue. And she said, we're going to talk about strategic planning. And I'm like, oh, this will be cool. So we get into this really cool conversation about strategic planning. And when I got my turn to go, it was like, we're a little different. We're a tech startup. This is one of many that I've done. And we kind of align ourselves with selling the business someday. So our strategic planning is different. And then that sparked a great conversation where she said, that's a really good point. And then this guy next to me says, I should be doing that in my law firm. Why should I run my law firm like it's going to live in perpetuity when I should be managing towards an outcome? He and I started talking, long story short, he now will go by my new customer, who we signed after TGR. So we walked away with contracts, friends, couldn't be happier about it.
Well, thank you. I've obviously go to a bunch of conferences as a speaker or an attendee. And one of the things that's really hard the first time you come to a conference is you don't know anybody and everybody else seems to be in these little cliques. And so it's really hard to break through. So the
Yep.
first thing we did before the first break is that speed networking. We lined everybody up. And
Loved it.
everybody at first, "Ah, rah, rah, I don't want to network." And then immediately, once we started, the volume and the energy in the room exploded. And I couldn't get people to move from these little conversations. And then we went into the first
Yeah.
break. And now, if you're a newbie at the conference, now you had someone you knew and someone to talk to, and nobody
Yep.
felt uncomfortable. And then before lunch, just a couple hours later after the next speaker, we did the second annual world champion rock, paper, scissors. And everybody had to play off against each other for rock, paper, scissors. And the final two ended up on stage. We're looking for those interaction points, the networking. We wanted to make it more natural for the vendors
Yeah.
to interact with the attorneys. We asked the
I
vendors
think it's good. And not
not to be
everybody's,
aggressive with the attorneys, because
yeah.
one we all hate a lot of times. I'm at conferences where the vendors are pitching me. You don't want to be like sold to. You'd
Yeah.
rather network and meet everybody. We had a couple cocktail parties. So when we start talking about the 10 Golden Rules conference next year, please note that we'll make it great for everybody. It'll be a lot of fun. It's down on the beach down here in South Florida next
And
March.
I will, me and my
Finalizing
team will
dates.
be there. We will be there.
All right. So we skipped ahead on the good stuff. Tim, you have an amazing journey. You sold a couple companies. You started an incredible new AI company for law firms. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up with this amazing AI product, Faster Outcomes.
Yeah, I had really one job my whole life. I worked for a federal savings bank for 13 years right out of college, and son had personal loan in the bank. The dad had four sons. We didn't get along, and I was devastated. I spent 13 years there, treated every interaction was like it was my own money. And I took a year off. I worked out a deal where I signed a 1-year non-compete. The first thing I did was rent an RV. Me, my wife, and my three kids, who are 8, 6, and 2, spent 35 days traveling the country. And we traveled almost 10,000 miles. And I really thought about, okay, what do I want to do next? And one
Hopefully
of the
that was
things,
summer, right? Like
it was summer,
out of
kids are
school.
on vacation, and we had a blast. And I made a pact with myself that I was going to do whatever I could to not go get another W-2 job. And no offense to people who lovely who have W-2 jobs. I have lots of team members who have W-2 jobs. I just wanted to see if I could do something a little different. And then I met someone who was a great mentor to me. So we started a company doing digital marketing for insurance agents, digital marketing and software. And we sold that to a private equity group in 2011. And then we took the same principles and brought them to elective medicine, plastic surgeons, cosmetic dermatologists, again, CRM, digital marketing, payments, sold that to a private equity group in 2020. Took a little time to think about what I want to do, taught high school financial literacy for a bit. And then someone from my old wolf pack called back in July of this year or 24 and said, hey, this is what we're doing. Looked at the space, looked at the opportunity, felt legal was absolutely ripe for what we were about to bring to the table. And I was actually wrong on a couple of things. I thought, one, a lot more firms had adopted AI at a higher level, right? Not just conversationally, but they were adopting it, right? So that turns out to not be true. And then the other was that there was this saturation of providers. It's almost like we had a little bit of fear of we might have missed the window. But the more I got involved, the more I realized we're just at the ground zero of what law firms can do with AI. And so the team is amazing. These are folks that I've worked with in the past. And so we're feeling really good. We got out there and started marketing the business in November. We're live. We're making friends. I learn everywhere I go. I really enjoy meeting. Your conference was really instructional. Some of the speakers there, big personal injury lawyers, but better than personal injury lawyers, they were smart business people. And that's what I was attracted to, that they not only know how to do the machinations of being a lawyer, a personal injury lawyer, they know how to run a business. And then the sales and marketing, which I love. So we're ready, and we're ready to tackle some more complex projects in AI. And grateful, I'm the new kid on the block. So the fact that someone like you can have me on the podcast and hopefully add some value and shed some light, it's great.
Fantastic. So talk a little bit about how the product works and what it does for the firms.
Yeah, so there's different personas that would use our product. So for example, personal injury, There's a few companies that do what we do. We have a platform, although ours is more advanced. We have a platform that allows the user, the personal injury lawyer, paralegal, legal assistant, to upload documents. And as soon as they upload those documents, they'll create an executive summary, take a photo of the document. So it has ocular character recognition. So you can upload photos and images, that type of thing. So create a case summary, case timeline, key points of the case. And they would also, that's where they're going to upload all their medical records. Once we have all that information uploaded, then the user just hits generate demand. And then within 24 to 48 hours, we will send them a world-class demand ready to be reviewed and sent off to the insurance company. We use human in the middle. So that means 80% is machine, 10% is our legal team, 10% is their review. The key distinction with that is the ability to chat with those documents. So you've got a portal that's living, breathing. You can talk, you can interrogate your documents, particularly as we think about MedChrons, right? MedChrons are medical chronologies that we use. They can get very long and they can get very painful to review. And if you're a litigator, you have to review them multiple times. So we upload the MedChrons into the platform, and then they have the ability to chat with those documents, which is really important if you're looking for one visit or one prescription. And then real quick, our knowledge-based product, which appeals to healthcare, family law, it's really appealing to, is the ability to take all of a firm's intellectual property going back to inception, decades of work, all their forms, templates, research, M&A due diligence, whatever they've done, communication with clients, putting it to a single, non-contaminated, standalone AI instance that becomes a functional law partner. They can chat with that information, pull up a clause, never get lost again. And think about if you said, man, if I could just have my own AI, it's just all my stuff. Everything, every speech I've given, we provide that. And then there's a lot, we were talking, there's a lot of brain sharing that goes on in that because every law firm functions differently. You might have a large, for example, family law firm that really uses a case manager. We've got other large law firms that have no case management software and files are all over the place. And so one of the things we do is the biggest thing is help people find their data because it's everywhere and then get it into a central repository. And that becomes transformative, really. Because at this point, Jay, there's not a lot of business processes within the legal system that cannot be automated with an agent, an AI agent. And in most cases, the agent can learn quickly and do it better.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's a little bit of a generational thing. Like I can imagine if I could upload 20 years of 10 golden rules, like you said,
You
all my
should.
meetings and speeches and website SEO and everything we've done and client results and things like that, and answer questions for my staff, that would be amazing. Because one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing is answering questions. And
Yep.
almost every time we've done it before. Now we're 22 years into this business.
Yep.
Almost every question I have an answer. And I have 2 or 3 case studies where we tried this, didn't work. We tried this, it worked. We tried this 3 more times, it worked. Like, here's what to tell the client we're going to do. So is that the kind of solution?
Yeah. So think you just hit the nail right. What you just said is very prophetic. And the first thing you should do is do that. So what I mean by that is we have a use case now in a large law firm. The founder, the rainmaker, the guy who brought in all the money, he's got 40 years worth of his body of work spans 4 decades, right?
Yeah.
There's 12 lawyers in the firm. Do you think anybody does anything without asking Jeff? No. Everything goes back. Can I just talk to Jeff for a minute? So we're creating Ask Jeff. And we're going to take all his work and put it into one location. Think about this. There was a survey an article that just came out based on a survey that talked about some of the most important things to mid-sized law firms. And outside of AI in general, succession planning for sustainable growth is really high on the minds of most lawyers. They're not good at it. It's an aging population. As most lawyers are over 40, we're not replacing at the rate that they're retiring. And that's a problem. So succession planning is so perfect for AI for the exact reason you just said. Imagine if you took, Jay, all of that. It's just go find out where it is, scan whatever you do, upload it into a single instance. Your team would be amazed. And when you onboard, once you break, and remember, you can chat. So they could say, Jay, this customer's nervous because their 3-month, 90-day SEO report shows a hiccup at day 45. What would you say? And it would go, this is how Jay has responded every time to that question. And it really becomes like functional, right? That's
That's
where people,
awesome.
I think, are missing with
Would it
AI.
work for us as well, or is it really designed for law
It,
firms at this point?
knowledge, our product that's called Knowledge will be a disruption in every industry. Medical, you could absolutely use it in medical, professional services. We're working on right now,
Well, so,
which
look,
would
sign me up for the beta. I want Ask Jay.
we won't forget this. Even like little things like you and I were business partners, we get in a fight, and I think you stole money from me. Okay, sure. We'll create an agent who starts with your bank records, your credit cards, your voting rights, and it'll go look for the money. That's the level of agentic frameworks that you can develop. Now you have to pick the ones you want to be amazing at. But yeah, the idea that everybody, I said I'm going to do it for my grandparents. I mean, my mom and dad who are still alive. I want to do it with them. I want to capture all their information and keep that in perpetuity. I think it's the coolest thing in the world.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things you shared with me, I don't know if you want to share this, so we can edit this part out if you don't, but you said there's 3 words that you like to share in your presentations. Is that something you want to share and talk about what the law firm should be doing?
Yeah, would. And so for context, I've been at the tail end of automotive, been in mortgage, insurance, financial services, elective medicine, plastic surgeons, cosmetic dermatologists, as I mentioned, and now the law. And at the end of the day, we use 3 words across all those industries to help people break down their business. We have to, these are businesses. They're not nonprofit, right? They need to do 3 things. And we can change the phrasing, but up to this point, it was you need to find, increase the quantity and quality of traffic to your website and phone, drive more people to your business. We all have to do that. And then we have to serve, but we also have to increase conversion. So it's find, serve, right? And then under increased conversion, it's talk tracks, analyzing call sentiment, it's frequently asked questions, it's looking at case results, and all of that can be done with training in AI, right? Notebook. I saw a great presentation at TGR about how to use Notebook. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. I was like, wow. So all of that, the serve/convert piece can be handled with AI. And then for most businesses, and it can be different for some law firms, is retention. But retention can mean a lot of things. To me, in a large PI firm, because that's most of your listeners, it would be reputation management, right? So how am I using AI to track successful outcomes where the client was happy, to get a review, to get a referral, and then feed that back into my system? And then foundationally at the center of all that is the institution or the lawyer itself. And the only way this stuff works, so it's find, serve, or sell, and then keep or retain or grow, right? And then it's what are the people, what are the roles of the people, process, and tools we need in each one of those buckets. And then at the middle of it is the role of leadership and alignment. Because you can buy, as law firms buy a lot of technology, they buy a lot of products. And if you talk to them, they'll be like, that product sucks or that product sucks. And I know that some cases the product might not meet the moment. Usually it's onboarding, training, execution, implementation, and there wasn't enough, and then buy-in. And did I introduce it to my team in the right way? Or did I say, hey, this is what we're freaking doing, shut up and do it? That's, of course they're going to go, that sucks, because that just gives them more work. So if you think about those 3 buckets, we got to get more people to the business. We got to convert more of them. We got to keep them, get retention. And then in the middle, we have to lead. And if you do that well, you're
Every
done.
business. Yeah,
You're
no,
in business.
you're right. The keep is so important. And I just want to touch on it for a minute because you said like the personal injury, like some guys would probably turn off and say, we keep most of the clients we want. But, they occasionally the personal injury guys lose a great case.
Yeah,
So you've got to service that client. We have
100%.
case status on the stage at TGR Live, and there's a couple products that do a great job informing the client on the status of their case. Yes, your MRI has been sent to the doctor, and we're going to get back to you within a couple of days with his read on your MRI. If the client is fed that information automatically, They don't have to wonder what the status of their case is. And then they're much happier. They're much more likely to leave a 5-star review, and they're much more likely to give you referrals. And that carries on through every business, obviously. And I always say, think of your business like a 5-star resort where you give concierge service. The minute you walk into a Four Seasons or any kind of 5-star hotel, it's welcome, Mr. Berkowitz. So we're so happy to see you. Reception's right over here. When you get there, Mr. Berkowitz, your room's ready. We've got your credit card on file. Everything's easy, right? And you get your luggage is already there. And throughout the entire visit, the restaurants are great. The facility's great. The gym's great. Everything's clean, right? So there's no way they're not getting a 5-star review. So I always say that you want to think of running your law firm in the same manner if you want those 5-star reviews. Guess what? We need them today because they're mission critical for your SEO results, for your Google Maps results, for your local service ad results. So I'm selfishly preaching the key part of keeping customers happy, because so many times the client thinks our job is just as, our job together in marketing and selling the firm is just about getting more leads, but it's not. It's so key. Like you said, more traffic to the website, more high quality traffic, then convert. Super important. Your intake's got to be working. And every lawyer will tell you it's working until you listen to a few phone calls. And guess what?
Which most people don't want to do.
So many people miss phone calls, leave people on hold till they hang up. Like, it's scary when we start listening to phone calls. And then obviously the 5-star concierge service
100%.
on the
back. And you know what I like to do, and I got an interesting conversation at TGR about this, was the idea of, and this is a principle, particularly as a tech startup guy, is we always have to act like our business is for sale. And particularly when they're leaders, Jay, like you and I, we're running the businesses, right? They're our businesses. We own equity in them. They're ours. And so we need an avatar to help manage ourselves, right? So if you say, okay, my boogeyman, my avatar, who would I sell this business to? How much do I want to get for it? And what would they be concerned about? And if you're honest enough with yourself, you have enough self-esteem to say, we screw up. We're not good at this. We're definitely not good at this. We're definitely not good at that. And you can objectively evaluate your business and be your own critic, your worst critic, and say, if I was going to buy Tim's business right now, I wouldn't buy it because I'm concerned about retention. I'm concerned about, I looked at their A, B, C case files. Their C's are huge compared to their B's. Like, you got to analyze that stuff and look at it from an investor and then say, okay, the investor wants these 10 things, and these are the KPIs attached to those 10 things. And then you got to manage to that. And I think anybody that with an entrepreneurial bent, and most lawyers do, that's how they have to train their brain, right? Okay, if I wanted to sell this someday, and of course there is a lot of, by the way, there's a lot of, to the extent that you can with lawyers, non-lawyers owning law firms, when there's states that a non-lawyer can own a law firm, they're going to scoop those law firms up, right? Just like small medical practices, and they're going to aggregate those, and then you're going to see private equity into law, because that's only the way it always happens for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely started to just sneak into the equation.
Arizona.
Quick questions that I love to ask someone with your level of expertise, and you've had a couple successful businesses. And the chair you and I sit in as the consultant, we get to see into businesses. And it's very easy to see what works, what doesn't work. We just talked about some of the key elements. But what's a recommendation you would have for someone who's just starting out? Maybe you're a smart lawyer, you just broke away from a big firm, you're starting your own thing. What's one business piece of advice you would give to that young startup?
I would begin with the end in mind and ask yourself, what do I want this business to look like in 1 year? And start there in terms of customer count. So think about your world, right? The first thing they need to do is have a budget for marketing. Doesn't matter what type of law. If they're going out on their own, or even if in a larger law firm, how are they going to brand themselves? How are they going to differentiate themselves? What is their purpose? And nail that, right? Sit and go, what is going to make me different? Why should any client choose me? And then how am I going to get them? And then talk to someone like you or your firm and say, hey, I'm just getting going. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Don't try to figure out marketing on your own. Marketing is going to be the lifeblood of your business, particularly in personal injury. It always will be. look at these mastermind groups, how much time and energy they spend on marketing, and they all go to you eventually, right? At some level. So where do you want to be in a year? Hopefully. So where do you want to be in a year? And then sit down and ask yourself, what makes me different?
That's a great question. We're
Write that out.
talking a lot about branding. You don't need to be like Morgan, right?
No.
What you need to do is figure out who you are, what makes you different. And by the way, you can change it after a year, but stick to one message because you have limited times to communicate that message. But if a customer sees your social media post and then comes to your website and then calls the firm, that experience should be incredibly consistent and should pay off that one consistent brand message because you don't have the money to compete with the big bucks guys in your market, but you do have the opportunity to be consistent with your message.
Yeah, that's the trickiest part is knowing what you don't know and go into it with a level of humility that you don't know and then go seek professionals. Of course, use AI. But I do see that foundationally, particularly if they're small PI, they want to go out on their own. I think a lot of times we underestimate how competitive that is. Just look at the Google ad budgets that you're dealing with, right? Tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so if someone comes out of law school and they're in Beverly Hills and they're going to put their flag in Beverly Hills and be the Beverly Hills personal injury lawyer and they've got a budget of $2,000 a month for marketing, it's going to be a long walk, right? And come up with how much money you think you're going to need to make it to the end of year one and triple that. That's my advice.
That's the budget you have. I'd spend it all on coffees. Do a lot of that. Do a lot of one-to-ones. So same question now for the bigger firm. Firms seeing 100 cases a month, 100 new clients a month, depending on your practice. What one piece of advice would you give, as the expert who's looked into a lot of firms?
So the one piece, I wrote this down, the most important thing is to get alignment across the organization about the things that matter most, right? Now, we know that we like to say AI is not going to replace lawyers, but lawyers who are really good at AI are going to kick the crap out of lawyers who aren't. That's just a fact. And so for large law firms who may be older and successful, don't let your success be an impediment to adopting new ways of thinking and new technology. And my suggestion with, again, AI would be, first of all, you're already using this in many ways. And so start to think about, okay, if I could wave a magic wand and improve three things, I can improve intake, the way we respond to email, and planning, whatever that is. Start there, but make sure everybody in the organization is on board with what you're trying to do. Paint a vision, and then who, what, where, when, most importantly, why. If you can explain to your people, this is who, this is what, this is where, this is when we're going to do it, and this is why we're doing it. Anybody have any questions? And then get buy-in. And it'll be transformational across the organization if you follow that. And don't try to jam stuff down people's throat, right? Just say, we're not just going to do this to do it. And don't buy stuff that you're not going to use because it only creates more problems.
I love it. You probably listened to a couple of our podcasts, but if you haven't, you're going to have to be on your toes because this is the quick snappers section of the Golden Rules podcast. And we just want quick one-liner answers to these. First one, any apps or techniques you use for personal productivity?
ChatGPT.
Give us a quick example, how to use it.
I would never write a complicated email without at least passing it through ChatGPT.
Here's a pro tip. I wrote an article today using ChatGPT. I went to one of my webinars where I explained something in great detail for 15 minutes.
Yep.
There's a transcription already on YouTube. I copied and pasted it into ChatGPT. I wrote a really good prompt. I said, author Jay Berkowitz is going to write an article on this topic. Saved me about 4 hours, and the article was darn good. It only took me about 15 minutes to edit it, and it's awesome. And it's coming soon to a legal magazine.
Game changer.
I won't mention any names, so they think I wrote it in ChatGPT. Now, obviously, there was probably about 40 hours creating that presentation. So I did the work. I just didn't do the typing.
Yeah, smart.
Do you have a personal wellness and fitness routine?
I do. Actually, part of my life, I spent 10 years in the elective medicine community. I was 265 pounds. I don't mind admitting that. And met someone who had enough courage to say to me, "You look awful and you need to take care of yourself." He was an integrative and functional medicine guy. And so I actually ended up investing in an own part of an integrative and functional medicine clinic. Keep my hormones right. That's really important. I lost a lot of weight, which is great. Trying to eat better. I have a workout routine. Try to get in my basement at least 3 times a week. And I do an hour on the treadmill, 4.2 miles an hour, 1.5 incline weights.
Awesome. Love
That
it.
gets me where, and then I ocean swim. I live on the ocean and I go in the winter 2 times a week.
Now, here's a question we've never asked on the 10 Golden Rules podcast. And I know the answer. Do you have a personal pub?
I am sitting in a personal pub.
We have to pay that one off. Yeah.
It's got cork ceilings for sound suppression. It's got a bar, billiards, got darts, everything that we need to have fun.
And why the Tom Brady shrine?
So I'm from New England, and I've been everything from a season ticket holder to a luxury box holder to not going to a lot of games right now because I'm working a ton, at least coming up. Just love the Patriots, love Tom Brady's 20-year run. And most of the moments that I have on the walls, I was at the game. So
That's great.
Been to a couple Super Bowls. And
yeah, how do the Pats look for this year?
Statistically, they're supposed to win 8 games. And last year they predicted they would win 3. They won 3. If the Patriots win 8 games this year, amen.
They picked like 3rd or 4th, right? So that first round pick is going to be back to.
Yep, they should too. We'll see. We're going to find out.
Looks like they've got their quarterback, so we'll see.
Yep. And I like Mike Vrabel. I watched a lot of games with Mike Vrabel now that he's coach and as their former linebacker. So
yeah, that should be a good fit. Best business books.
Best business books. This will blow your mind. It's not a business book, although I just recently had recommended to my CEO who plowed through it in a weekend. It's a book called Sapiens, which is a brief history of humankind from faith, religions aside. It's a book about evolution, and it takes us from the Stone Age when we fell out of a tree to where society is at now. And there are incredible implications in that book around branding. Talks about how world religions were created. Some of the greatest branding in the world is used in world religions. How communication system, the first communication systems that were set up. And now the third in that series is a book called Nexus, and I'm reading it right now. And Nexus is a history of information systems from the Stone Age to AI and the implications around that. Bulletproof. They're not small, but they're great books.
Blogs, podcasts, and YouTubes. The things you subscribe to, and one hits your feed and you immediately go to.
I have my own podcast, so I tend to limit, and I do a lot of podcasts, so I don't have one that Joe Rogan I like to listen to once in a while. It's cool. YouTube's, I'm going to take a little break. I actually, and this will ruin it for the whole podcast, I like TikTok. It's funny. Like
the algorithm learns you, right? You just, as you scroll through it, it's interesting.
And now it's dialed in on what I want to get served up.
Yep.
So I can get a lot of information and good feelings in 15 minutes. And then I like the functional medicine stuff. I work with a doctor, so I like on YouTube. And what was the other one? YouTube, books.
That's great. Have you read Outlive?
No.
I just started reading that book. It's a great functional medicine book. There was one guy at the last legal conference who was in phenomenal shape. And every other guy was like, oh shit, I want to figure out what he's doing in the gym. And guess what? He was in the gym for 2 hours every morning, even if we started at 8 o'clock. But he recommended the book Outlive. So I've just started that, and I'm going back and forth between the NVIDIA way. But I'll put Sapiens and Nexus on the to read list.
And the book in the middle is called Homo Deus.
What's a great introduction for you and for Faster Outcomes? Who should we say, y'all need to talk to Tim at Faster Outcomes because?
Y'all need to talk to Tim at Faster Outcomes because I do, and this is great. We had this conversation at TGR, the speed networking. People said, what is it that you do? And I said, what I want to do is bring technology to the legal space that allows lawyers to have more time to do more of what they love. If that's smashing their competition, great. If that's getting home earlier to help put the kids to bed, that is also a noble goal. That is why you should talk to Tim, because that's all I care about.
Fantastic. And where can they find you?
fasteroutcomes.com, just like it sounds, FASTER outcomes.com. And we have the Legal Keys podcast, relatively new. We'll be having Jay on that soon. We've done 4 episodes. It's starting to take off. Really excited about that. And shows. We're traveling, headed to Mississippi tomorrow to do some CLE training with the Association for Justice there. That'll be fun. San Diego this month, and then Pilma at the end of the month. And so you'll see. What's that?
Yeah, we'll be at Pilma too. So I look forward to
see you there.
Having maybe 1 or 2 beverages in Denver.
Let's do it. My instincts tell me people who listen to this podcast will see us more and more often. We're not going anywhere.
Tim, congratulations on getting out of the gate quick. And thank you for a great podcast and great to get to know you. Thank you so much.
So grateful. And by the way, can't wait to get back to TGR. Last shout out, everybody watch the testimonial videos from this TGR. I was perfectly honest, loved it. Highly recommend. Got to go.
Yeah, some of the content was fantastic. And we're going to edit it into like short 5 or 10 minute clips and make a lot of the content available from the show.
Great.
Watch for that coming soon. Tim, thanks so much. This was great.
Have a great day, Jay.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENgoldenrules.com.